You're listening to iCannabisRadio.com.
Right, we're back for another installment of the Hemp Connoisseur Radio. All of us were unavailable last week, all three of us.
It's been a while since I've been here.
How are you, Samantha?
I'm good. I missed you.
I missed you as well.
I'm very missable.
Oh, you? Oh.
I am.
Okay, and I no longer miss you.
What? That's not right.
Yeah, it's been a while for both of us to be like together on the show.
And if I'm a little out of it, it's because last night was sine die, whatever you want to call it. Last day of legislative session.
How'd that go?
It was really easy. Definitely not a roller coaster nail biter at the last minute getting marijuana banking through.
So,
what happened to that?
I don't know.
Your stick went a little limp there.
It needs a blue pill. So marijuana banking went through.
Well, yes.
Do we want to talk about that?
Yeah.
No, of course we do.
Yeah, of course we do.
So tell me about the bill.
Well, the bill was introduced by the governor's office within the last 5 days of session. Mm-hmm. It's a 40 some odd long page bill about basically setting up a financial co-op structure for licensed marijuana businesses to basically form a unchartered credit union with no state backing, no insurance. Good luck, guys. You're on your own. Sort of like a cross the line dare love letter to Santa Claus about hoping, because they can't access the Federal Reserve with it, but they're hoping that they're gonna, through the regulatory process.
So it's going to be state run?
It will not be state. Well, it'll be overseen by the Department of Regulatory Affairs.
So who puts in the money? Just the marijuana businesses. But yes. But it's not going to allow loans then. It's just going to allow
they would allow them to do loans.
Yeah, but how can they do loans if there's no money?
They would need to tap into the Federal Reserve.
But how can they tap into the Federal Reserve if they're not insured? Out of curiosity.
They're working on that. They're going to figure all this out during the regulation rulemaking process.
So it's a positive thing because it's the state saying, look, we're going to create a solution to this problem, but the solution's not necessarily
a solution.
And it's not necessarily completely possible. It's kind of saying we're going to look into making this a possibility.
Well, it's there. The structure's there.
Right.
And hopefully we're going to be able to do something with it.
But it depends on the FDIC, basically.
Yeah.
How is that going to happen if they're already telling the banks are already saying, well, the FDIC is not saying that we can do this. So,
well, that's not necessarily true. They've said, FinCEN has said you can do this. You just have to go through certain patterns and compliance reports that they call SARs, just suspicious activity reporting. And so they have to there's just extra compliance involved if they want to bank marijuana businesses. And so the banks say it's just not worth their time or effort. And then they also like to say, what if we get arrested? But that never happens. Bankers never get arrested for anything.
Exactly.
And and so...
And please, these are the same banks who are already laundering money for Colombian cartels. Come on.
And so they, we got it through the House. They added on, they added on goods and services to businesses that provide goods and services to the marijuana industry. They added employees would be allowed to cash checks there. And all these would have to prove, though. All these
so the money order, stuff like that.
Yeah, so you apply to be a member of the co-op to DORA. And then, they approve you or not. And then, I would say in the Senate, we had some really good champions who were very curious as to why hemp was not included in this. And so they added hemp on the Senate floor as well, as industry business.
Who asked for that?
That was an amendment brought by Senator Greg Brophy.
Why are you laughing?
Because I'm just saying, we talked about it, but I'm not saying I pushed it.
Did you put a little bug in his ear about this?
I put a little bug in his ear about it.
Oh, well, right on.
But I had no idea it was going to fly, and it apparently became...
But, the thing about hemp is it just makes sense. So when you bring it up and you just say, hey, by the way, you guys always forget about this. Why not do this? It seems like it's just, oh, well, of course.
At the end of the day, of course, we were always, neutral and supportive. Well, we were neutral on the bill. But then we were very supportive if hemp would be included. And so, they decided to add hemp because that is an issue. I mean, if the issue is that, like, you don't want these unbankable businesses at risk.
Right.
And at the end of the day, these farmers are even, yes, there's something to be said about people who are, like, making $900,000 a week and, like, carting this off in, like, grocery bags and suitcases of cash, So that's completely an unsafe situation, and it's eventually going to end up with somebody losing their life. But you also have these farmers in rural Colorado who are economically destitute. Mm-hmm. They are running out of options. They are looking for ways to feed their families and to keep, a sustainable, they're finding ways. They're just trying to make it. And so, that's been the whole, I think, philosophy behind the hemp movement is that we've wanted to, offer this new economic opportunity. We've always talked about how awesome hemp is and the amazing possibilities. We now have over around 100 people registered to grow hemp for well over.
Is that the final number now? Because they did stop it on May 1st, didn't they?
Yeah, but we just passed. Well, we passed that one bill to
extend it.
Extend the deadline.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I love that.
I know.
If one thing government's good is extending schedules. They are good at that. They're we're not late.
Well, we changed it so there won't be a deadline requirement.
That's nice.
It'll just be done through rule. Stop. Gnu keeps pulling on the string. On the cord. Sorry. He's so cute. So anyways, and there's already 1,000 acres ready to be planted. So obviously there's a huge interest in people who want to take advantage of this new economy and this new industry and this new opportunity. And yet we are hearing stories now about people who are losing their banking now because they
want to use hemp.
Because
I think it's great
just because it says hemp in the name, and
exactly.
I've got farmer, and I think the thing that upset me the most is that when the bankers were testifying, CBA was testifying, they said, "Well, we already bank these businesses," and I said that's not true, and even if that was a legitimate excuse. They also
meaning marijuana businesses.
Oh, hemp.
Hemp.
They drew the line at hemp.
They did.
The bankers was neutral on the bill. They were neutral on this financial co-op bill until they said if you add hemp in here, we will move to oppose and kill it. And this is a very powerful lobby.
That's amazing to me. Why would you move to oppose hemp as opposed to marijuana?
Because their reasoning was that they already bank these businesses, which is not true. I was just
if they already so are they saying that they're worried about losing business because of this bill? Is that
no? They just said they already bank these businesses, so there's
so what does it matter if you're opposing it or not? Then you're opposing something if it goes through, it doesn't change your business practice by that argument.
It doesn't, and it doesn't change the scope of the bill. They said that was one of the things they said it was going to change the scope of the bill, which is not true. They added goods and services on there, so even the people who provide goods and services to marijuana businesses can apply to be members of these co-ops.
What about crop insurance for the farmers for hemp? I mean, are we going to be able to see some kind of company come about to help crop insurance for these guys?
I think right now it's just private insurance,
Okay. Interesting.
But yeah, and so it was a standoff for sure. Mm-hmm. And I think the governor, really realized that, this is important to rural Colorado and this is important to our farmers. And they took a stand and they said, we want hemp in this bill as well. And they stood up to the banking lobby. And I think that was really awesome of the governor to do that, and
give credit where it's due.
Give credit where it's due. Absolutely. And he, they stood hard and fast on that. And
I will say I've not been upset with the governor on the hemp side.
Oh, he's been great. He's been wonderful.
But again, it's well, of course you should be. That's part of my thought process. I know it's we have to be pleasantly surprised whenever somebody's good on hemp, but it's it's such a logical explanation. Crop to be a part of.
Yeah, and so without getting too much insider baseball, they were ready to kill the bill. They were going to kill the whole thing over hemp. Over hemp. And we called the bank. I think we stood up to the banking lobby and we won. So big hemp rolled big banks. Even though there is no such thing as big hemp. It's just little hemp at this point.
So out of all of this acreage of hemp, the 100 guys, and we're saying, 1,000 acres, I think it was?
Yeah, about 1,000.
1,000 acres.
I think it's over.
How much of that hemp is already being accounted for by somebody purchasing it, ahead of time? Or agreements happening? Have you heard of it?
I think
I've heard of a couple, by the way. So there is some of this happening.
Oh, sure. Well, they have to have a processor, an agreement with an in-state processor before they are granted.
What processing are you seeing so far? Just seed press?
Seed press is huge. I think there's a lot of the building materials. Man, the people who want to do the composites, like.
Well, my friends Josh and JP are already building their first hemp home as a replacement. You've heard of that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What's the name of their project again? Hemp Seed Revival?
Hemp Seed Revival,
That's it, yeah, Hemp Seed Revival. Yeah, that's great. So the first hemp home is being built in Colorado right now.
It's awesome.
Isn't that crazy?
It's crazy.
I know.
So what else? Did you see, speaking of hemp, I was talking to Jane West last night.
Are we talking about the symphony now?
Yeah, I was talking to Jane West last night. You were celebrating Sine Day, Sine Day, Sine Die, what the fuck ever. And
what is that, by the way? I'm sorry.
It says the last day of the legislative session.
Okay, so it's just last day.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Latin snobs.
Yeah.
So, I was talking to Jane West, and, we were talking about the symphony, and she wants to do a whole little hemp village of the food products, So, we want to talk to all the hemp people who do food, hemp coffee, we've got Evo Hemp. They did delicious little hemp dishes at when we had the NoCo Expo that Morris Spiegel did.
Mm-hmm.
And
how did that go? I wasn't able to make it because
it went really well. It was awesome. Yeah, it was very well attended. It was very well attended.
Good.
Yeah, it was like over 100 people there. And and so, and I think one of the other things we want to do is, like, we talked about having even just independent food vendors. We've said, why don't you just take hemp, add it into your recipes, for this one night, and people could, like, which I think people could be really creative about, hemp's delicious. And so we were just talking about that. And then I wake up this morning to an email that says that the city of Denver
sent a letter to the symphony
and said, call it off. Yeah. And I just don't get it. I don't get it.
Excise and licensing. Same issue we had in Marijuana Madness. Again, I'm still curious, and I'm actually, we're going to be doing a story on this in the June issue of the Hemp Connoisseur, trying to cover the whole side of Denver versus marijuana, basically. And one of the things I am curious about is still, because it's unclear to me yet, so we just have to do a little legwork on it, was the High Times Cup held in Denver city limits?
Yes.
So if the High Times Cup is held in Denver city limits, and you allowed that as a city of Denver, and there was thousands of people, 37,000 people, and and all of them were smoking. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, maybe a handful of people who don't smoke who were there, but it was a smoking event.
Oh, yeah.
But that's okay. But yet smaller events or a nice event like the symphony.
Well, it's not like, and I don't want to.
And they weren't talking about it as like a smoke out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I don't think Denver is 100% accurate when they say that it's prohibited by law. It's not technically prohibited by law. It's more like just not allowed.
Yeah.
There's difference.
There is a difference.
It's prescriptive and prohibitive.
Is it decriminalized? Or, I mean, it seems
like what they say is on private residential they say the only place where you can smoke outside is on private residential property, but it says nothing about on private commercial property. Yes. It says nothing about
it doesn't say you can't.
You can't. No.
But that's the stance they're kind of taking. And again, they're taking it and they're not taking it because they didn't stop the High Times Cup, which is thousands of people and a lot of money coming into the city. So obviously, it seems like they're sending a message to me, at least, where it's like it's okay if you spend money on it. And we make a lot of money. We'll then allow it, and we'll allow it on a mass scale, but we're not going to allow it on a small scale. And so you smaller local businesses or local events, we're not going to let you succeed. We're not going to let you congregate. It's just going to be like the big shit. And to me, it makes no sense. It's like you're not really supporting your local commerce.
Yeah.
Because all that money went to High Times. They're based in New York. I mean, the city made money, but.
Yeah, and so I don't know if the city is gonna win this fight. I think we stand firm, and maybe they put out a thing that says we will not be condoning the public use of marijuana on site or something, and then people just do it anyway, and then who cares? But
they're talking about more enforcing it. They're taking a much more hardline stance on it, and I think that's the issue. Is like you could have done a turn the other way, kind of look. Nod, wink, wink to this. Where yes, we as a city publicly do not condone. I mean, we don't want you to have.
I mean, you're going up against every liberal now. I mean, that is just such an interesting tactic by the mayor's office, because you're going after all the softy liberals who love them some symphony, and they probably like weed, and they probably love the fact that the symphony is being kept alive, by a new, younger demographic, a more elite, not more elite, but it's also an elite demographic. And
I think the city of Denver, you're right. I think going after the symphony is like,
that's like kicking puppies.
Yeah,
right?
kind of like kicking puppies.
That's like, I'm gonna kick this puppy.
That's a good
right
way
now.
to put it.
Like,
it is.
Just don't bad culture.
Because if they kept going, and again, if they went after the High Times Cup, that would have been a political mistake as well. So it is. You're looking at it more political.
But at least you can say look at these trashy stoners. Not that stoners are trashy, but we're going after this trashy stoners who are bad for our image. I get it. They just they're just being kind of I don't know why hardliners about this. I guess dicks would be another way to say it. And yet, they're. You just don't go after the symphony. I mean, it's
the symphony.
Boo you with your violins.
It's
and your
you know what it
cellos.
is. But then there's the issue of we don't want cannabis to start being integrated so much into the culture here. And when you think of symphony, you think culture, and you think refined. And it's do they want cannabis to be considered part of the refined culture in Denver? And I would say that they wouldn't, because that's kind of show more and more acceptance. People start going, wow, it's not just trashy stoners like they might be thinking doing it. And I think that it's very politically motivated in what they're choosing, because I don't think excise and licensing is just going willy-nilly. And they obviously didn't go after the High Times Cup, but they're going after the symphony. And it's there's not much money in it. And I think part of it, they think politically that it's not going to come back and bite them in the ass. They're going to be the people of Denver don't care if we're stopping smoking events. They probably appreciate what we're doing, and that's probably the mindset that they have.
But now I think you're wrinkling feathers when you're telling people what they can and can't do on a private property. You're just talking about. If I could smoke cigarettes, why can't I smoke a joint? If I could drink a beer in the same event, why can't I smoke a joint? It's ridiculous. It is not treating it the same. They're still being subject to the Clean Indoor Act, Clean Air Indoor Act, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's still treating marijuana like alcohol, where I can pick this intoxicant or I can pick that intoxicant. It is. It's just, I was very flabbergasted when I saw that. Again, maybe this is another instance where I think, the cannabis industry needs to play chicken with government and see who blinks first on this.
Yes, I mean somebody needs to be able to do it, but the people who need to do it need to be able to know that they have the backing, that they can take a loss on doing something like that.
Yeah.
Because to put something like that together requires a significant amount of income, and then you have to take a hit, and maybe they can get sponsors who are going to be like, yeah, man, we'll give you the money whether or not you make it go off or not, because we want to have this fight as well.
Yeah.
That would be great to see.
I think there's a lot of people who do want to have that fight, and I think that. It's, again, it's one thing to pick on, a whole gaggle of stoners. It's another thing to go after the symphony. You just, You don't kick puppies. You just don't.
Yeah, I know. Well, on that thought, don't kick puppies. And I got to give a little quick word from our sponsor, our wonderful sponsors, Medically Correct, the makers of Incredible Bars.
Oh, I love me some Incredibles.
I do love some Incredibles. But new from Incredibles, they have Gummies. It's their new gummies. They come 2 to a pack. Each 2-pack contains 100 milligrams. So that means 50 milligrams of a gummy, I guess. Of the finest medicine around. He said, what's more, each 50 milligram infused gummy is, and it's a little gummy disc, so maybe they're already going towards the whole 1366 rule, Samantha. I'm sorry, I'm kind of digressing here. Each 50 milligram infused gummy disc is fortified with 100 milligrams of vitamin C for an extra healthful kick. It's available in black cherry, green apple, orange, strawberry, blue raspberry, and strawberry banana. Gummies new from Incredibles. Same great flavors, brand new shape, and now fortified with vitamin C. Gummies, ask for them by name at your favorite Colorado dispensary.
Yeah. I love Medically Correct.
I do. They are really one of my favorites, man, if not the favorite. You know, it's funny. Citizen J sent me that copy recently. And he sent me this WAV file of him doing it all in an English accent. So should I do it in an English accent next and try it out that way?
I don't think you can do an English. I can.
You don't think I can do an English accent?
No.
No. Really?
Let's hear it.
New from Incredibles Gummies.
No, that's...
Our new gummies come 2 to a pack. Each 2-pack contains 100 milligrams of the finest medicine around. What's more, each 50 milligram infused gummy disc is fortified with 100 milligrams.
Stop. No, that was bad.
Was that bad?
That was bad.
I'm sorry.
That's
You
okay.
You think you could do better?
Yes.
Okay, you have to do the next one then.
All right, I will.
Yeah, we'll have
I
a
will
vote.
do it in an English accent. It'll be wonderful and elegant and amazing.
There's a lot of different types of English accents.
What? Gumna? A Cockney accent. Yeah, you like that? Yeah, boy.
Please stop right now.
What?
Just stop.
What?
No.
This is called... What? That was a good accent.
Okay.
I'm very talented.
Yes, you think so.
Why is everyone shitting on my dreams lately?
I didn't know it was your dream to speak in a Cockney
Just
accent.
saying. I'm doing amazing things this week, and like...
You are doing amazing things, so, I do want to congratulate you on that.
Thank you.
That's really cool.
That was a really good win, and, like... I'm cognizant of the fact that I pissed off a very powerful political lobbying force in the bankers, but I think at the end of the day, they'll be fine. I think they're just blowing a lot of hot air. They'll be fine.
It's kind of nice to give them a loss once in a while, right?
Yeah, everyone should lose every once in a while.
You're right.
I think it's healthy for the ego.
It is.
It's healthy.
It is. So what's
I
next?
care about their well-being.
What's next now that we're not in session? So now what happens next on the political process?
All right,
A little civics lesson from Miss Samantha Walsh.
Well, this is when all the nitty-gritty stuff happens. We got rulemaking. So we've got an edibles bill passed. Actually, speaking of edibles, an edibles bill passed.
1366.
Yes, 1366, which just now it basically says, look, they're going to convene a stakeholder process, and
What does that mean, by the way?
A stakeholder process is when you get all the prominent players
In the industry,
in an industry,
for or against, and all that.
Yeah, and
then you put them in a room and
they figure out what's a good compromise and what's feasible.
Okay, so it's written so generally though, because it was only
and
2 pages.
They don't write the things. The rules.
But it's like a task force.
Yeah, they
like
give recommendations
yeah.
to the rulemaking authority, which
Right.
will be Department of Revenue. And so, and they've got till 2016, I think, to get that done. But all it's going to be is just.
I thought it was 2016 to implement. It's 2016 to come up with the rules.
To implement.
To implement.
Yeah,
Okay.
but
So they're going to come up with the rules fairly soon, so people can figure it out.
Yeah, and listen, you just got to figure out at some level we have to figure out a way to probably identify the difference between a marijuana product and a non-marijuana product.
Why isn't labeling enough? Really though, why isn't labeling?
I
enough?
don't know. I mean, look. At the end of the day, it should be enough, but there's obviously I think it's smart on industry to take a lead on this issue. It's like oil and gas kind of does this stuff all the time, where they'll take the lead.
So do you feel like the industry's taking the lead on this?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think
really, because that's not what I'm hearing from the industry, from some of the industry people I've talked to.
Well, I would say a good portion of the industry has taken a lead on this, and kind of put 1366 together. Yeah,
really, because I've been hearing that it was Smart Colorado mostly that was behind it.
No. It was a collaboration of Smart Colorado and some people in industry because industry is being very cognizant that look, we've got a PR problem here. And we did. We are.
Oh, come on, though. I mean, I talk about this in the letter from to my readers in this issue for the May issue, which is coming out tomorrow. And it's let's talk about some perspective. All right. So 2 people have allegedly died related to taking marijuana edibles in Colorado since we've legalized cannabis. And now there's this thing going on. And I mean, I wouldn't say as a direct reaction to that, but it's definitely they're using those cases to really push this, in my opinion.
Well, this to be fair, this was started before the deaths.
I agree. I just think that they use the deaths to be see, we really need this. And it's and of course I can't blame them for using that politically, but at the same point, what?
You went limp again?
I know, my mic went limp again.
It's all right. It's called staying power, David.
Yeah, thanks.
Figure it out.
Thanks. Where was I?
Well, I see your point, David. I see your point. But I would say this. There's a larger perspective we need to take. So, perspective is absolutely...
But here's some perspective. I'm sorry. I don't mean to... Well, I do mean to interject. It's 4:25 right now. We've been doing this for 25 minutes. Every day... or on average, we have 88,000 people that die from alcohol or alcohol-related deaths or sicknesses every year. That's reported by the CDC. That works out to one person every 6 minutes. So 4 people have died since we started this show because of alcohol in the country. I mean, it's not just the state of Colorado, but it's in the country. And yet we don't have any issues with the way we regulate alcohol in this state while we're regulating cannabis to this extreme.
I understand. Listen, I understand. But at the end of the day, we sold this issue on the fact that cannabis is safer than alcohol and that it's the more responsible choice.
It is.
So in keeping in that vein, I think we have a right, we have a duty, especially being the hotbed of marijuana policy in the world. That's what we are. Mm-hmm. Everyone's looking at us, so whatever we do is going to either get, whether it's right or wrong, is probably going to get carried into other states, and they'll fix it. They'll tweak it their own way.
I get it.
But what I'm saying is that if you look at all these, so we were sold that. So I think we have an extra duty to be even more judicious and, what's the word I'm looking for, but like maybe extra cautious on this.
I don't disagree with you on this, Samantha, but like here's my thing is I think the approach is wrong. What instead should be happening, instead of finding a way to further regulate the edible companies and slow down the commerce of edibles, and also and again, I think edibles are an incredibly safe way to medicate if you are educated in how to medicate with them.
I agree. Education.
And so let's take the money. Yeah, so that's what I'm sorry. That's what my point is. Let's take the money that would have been spent on this regulation and now say, okay, we're going to take this and we're going to spend it on education on how to consume edibles, and then maybe talk about making definitive 10 milligram portions instead of a cookie that's 50.
And that's something they're going to do in this rulemaking process. Right. I'm already actually working on mandatory training for the employees who work the point of sale if they're selling edibles, where they have to go through almost like a TSA kind of like flight attendant spiel, where they're like, consume like this, consume within this amount of time. If you're taking this much THC, if you're feeling panicked, here's some things you can do. You can drink some orange juice. You can take some CBD tinctures, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, the whole, let's talk about perspective. We want to legalize nationally. We want to legalize globally.
Absolutely.
In order to do that, we have to have the best optics possible. And right now, edibles are they're rightly or wrongly, they are a big, huge impediment to that goal. And it's only because of the optics behind it. When you have,
I get it.
When you're doing gummy bears, you can't tell a THC gummy bear from another gummy bear, and you have kids going to the hospital, which is a fact. It's true. And I trust me, I hate it as much as you do. I don't like it. I'm sort of like a free market and, educator person. Sure. But I think at the end of the day, there's an obligation.
Well, one thing to say, first of all, yes, these kids are going to the hospital. Most likely, they don't even need to be at the hospital. That's just, again, that's an education thing for the parents and they're freaking out about it, when usually it's just like, hey, let me give you some water, let me take you you'll be fine in a couple of hours. I mean, I get the fear because it's where you're dealing with kids, so people are going to react. I'm not going to expect them not to go to the hospital with them, but really, in most cases, you're probably looking at them being all right.
Yeah.
Because nobody's ever died from actual consumption of cannabis. The other deaths, and these other 2 alleged deaths are basically one person losing his mind and jumping off of a building, which could have been anything as far as a psychosis, and he happened to be on edibles that maybe stimulated that, possibly. You never know.
Well, he was also on painkillers.
Yeah. And the other one was this guy shooting his wife, which, there's still questions.
Guy.
Yeah, what else was in his system when that happened, and also that he was schizophrenic. Well, that's something that's probably a larger factor than the cannabis.
And I don't disagree. I don't disagree. But something needed to be done. And I think it was the people who did take the lead on that issue are definitely being cognizant of the larger picture. And it's sort of like one of those things at least we're doing it through rulemaking, and rulemaking is always easy to peel back. In a few years. But people have to understand that at the end of the day, we're the only place doing this. So yes, the regulations are going to be hard.
All I'm saying is if I can get a medicated brownie or a medicated chocolate chip cookie, I get that you need to label it and package it and do whatever you need to do so people are aware of it. But once I take it out of that store, I'm responsible for it, not the company. If I take it out of the package, that's like me taking a bottle of vodka and pouring the vodka into another container. that's now my fault that it's not in the package.
I know.
So to me, there needs to be a little bit more common sense on that side of things, and that's where the education comes in.
I don't disagree. I'm just saying that, that's something I think just needed to be done. No matter what, they were going to do this. And I think that it was good that it was done with industry input and industry working with them on this, because, it shows that we are trying to be as responsible and, I can't think of it. My brain's dead. I'm so hungover. But you know what I mean? We're trying to be as responsible as possible when it comes to this issue. Like, look, we understand that we're going to be, be kept to task when it comes to, high taxes and overburdensome regulations and tons of red tape. But, once other states come on board and we, get this movement going on a national level, like, we're going to be able to, like, peel some of this stuff back. Because then we're going to know by then what works and what doesn't work. And we're going to be, and then we're going to be able to fix some of this stuff and make it easier for the businesses.
I agree. Now, we have to go on a commercial break, but when we come back, in the next commercial break, we're going to hear you do the English accent.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. But when we come back, I want to talk about House Bill 1361, which is focused on concentrates.
Oh, that's such... Everyone's freaking out about that for no reason.
So, no, I want to talk about that. So we'll be right back.
Cannapunch is a delicious and effective medical marijuana beverage proudly made right here in Colorado. Each bottle is freshly infused with 100% pure flower extract from the highest grade marijuana plants available today. Using proprietary extraction methods, every bottle of Cannapunch is consistently and reliably infused with an exact milligram dosage that you can count on to relieve your symptoms each and every time. Cannapunch is delicious. There's never any medicine-y taste. We use only 100% cannabis flowers. No trim or byproducts are ever used in Cannapunch. It does not require refrigeration and comes in convenient, resealable multi-dose bottles from 60 milligrams to 200 milligrams. We have drinks with dosage that works best for you. Cannapunch is available in a variety of delicious flavors like black cherry, watermelon, pineapple mango, and blue raspberry. And we now have strain-specific beverages available just for you. Cannapunch is delicious, convenient, consistent, and effective. Give it a try and experience the Cannapunch difference.
The Law Office of Edson, Mayton, and Matz provides criminal defense, family law, medical marijuana defense, and advice about setting up and running a medical marijuana center, optional premises cultivation operation, and infused product manufacturing businesses throughout the state of Colorado. We're focused on providing high-quality service and customer satisfaction. We will do everything we can to meet your expectations. WarrenEdson.com. Edson, Mayton, and Matz in Denver, 303-831-8188, and in Aspen, 970-948-7183. WarrenEdson.com.
I'm Gary Johnson, and you're listening to Cannabis Radio, and I want to say, talk it up, Colorado.
All right, so we're back from a break, and what I wanted to say was we were going to talk about House Bill 14, HB 1361, which is the concentrate bill. Now, there's a lot of people very upset about this concentrate bill as well. The idea that I read behind the general writing of it, and please, fill in the details on this, Samantha, is that they want to come up with a standard way to test the concentrate to recognize what its equivalency is in flower so they can limit how much you can purchase when you go into a dispensary, just like they have limits on flower of an eighth. Right now, it's the same limit on concentrates like an eighth, but they're like, well, it's way stronger, so let's change that and make it let's just say a gram or 2 grams is the equivalent of an eighth, because we tested this product at such and such a percentage wise, and so now you can only buy this much of this product. Is that about correct?
They're not going to test it. They're just going to figure it out,
So does it mean, no matter what gram it is, it's always going to be equivalency of an eighth? Like you know what I mean? It's not like this is 75% THC, so this is like a stronger one than the 50%, so I can buy more of the 50%. You know what I mean?
I think it would be equivalent to an ounce. I'd have to reread the bill.
To an ounce,
because you can purchase an ounce.
Right, because you can purchase an ounce.
They're saying...
Well, I'm thinking on the adult use side, you're talking about people from out of state. That's why I keep coming
That's
with
a quarter.
Right.
But so for both, you know, what out-of-state people can just purchase. This does not change possessions. You
exactly, it doesn't change possession.
An entire ounce of concentrate. You can, I think it's just, it's again, just one of those bills that is rather sort of innocuous, and it doesn't really do anything wrong, and it's not going to, I don't think it's going to inhibit anybody's sales or anything like that, or even inhibit the ability for people to purchase. It's just saying, look, they just want a responsible equivalency because, like, I mean, really, somebody buying an ounce at, you know, which is like what, $2,000 or something, $2 or $3,000 at the point of sale is rather ridiculous. I don't think anybody's actually
an ounce of concentrate,
full ounce of oil, yeah. And I don't think rather ridiculous. I don't think anybody's gonna is actually doing that.
No.
And so this is just one of those ones that was put out there to, you know, show that they're doing something and on concentrates. And I think it protects, people from going out of state. And look, you know, when the second Cole memo came out, there's all these guidelines that said prevent diversion, prevent it to going to other states. Mm-hmm. So I think innocuous or not, or, tilting at windmills or whatever you want to call it, like whether it's just like, why are we doing this? This is so retarded or not. Or, I shouldn't say that word, so stupid. They don't like it. And it's like, yes, but it's an appearance thing. And we want to show that we're doing everything we can to regulate this as responsibly as we can. Mm-hmm. And I think this is a good bill. I don't think it's a bad bill. I think...
do you think it's more like just a neutral bill then? It's
bill.
like, it's happening. Are there hoops for these guys to have to jump through because of this bill?
No.
So it's only limiting the purchase, at the point of sale.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's it.
Well, if that's the case, it doesn't seem like that big of a deal.
And at the end of the day, Department of Revenue was going to probably be doing this anyway. It's just sometimes these regulatory agencies like to have the legislature go, we want you to do this without, gives them a little shove so they can go.
Right. Well, it gives them a little backing so people can be like, why are you doing this?
Exactly,
you weren't told to do it.
But, it's reasonable. It's not terrible. It's not the end of the world. I know Mahatma was like up in arms over it, but I promise this is
Well, yeah, I spoke to Brett about it, and he kind of let me hear what he'd spoken there, and it seemed like he made some decent points in there compared to what the bill was. But what are you saying, that it was inaccurate in what he was thinking the bill was?
I'm thinking that no one is going to be inhibiting concentrate production. It is just limiting how much people can buy at the point of sale. I don't think it's going to be inhibiting.
But that can in turn limit concentrate production, don't you think? No. Well, it depends on how much the limit is. I guess that's the thing is, and I can understand why you might want to fight something like this, is if you don't know what the limit is yet, and you say, okay, go ahead and do this bill, next thing you know, that the limit is it's 1/10 of a gram. You're just going to be like, what the hell?
I don't think that's what it's going to be.
No, I get that, but there is always that concern that there's that it goes overreaching.
My
and becomes
guess
too
is
restrictive.
that they're going to say, look, this is what we already sell it in, the little containers like this, whatever a gram is or whatever, and they're going to say, all right, we're good with a gram. We're good with that. That's a reasonable amount of purchase. No one's going to be saying, you just get your, one little BB dab.
Right.
I think that...
Well, because that would be like saying, okay, all you're buying is joints.
Yeah, or you're just allowed one can of beer, and I get it. At the end of the day, I can walk out.
But they are kind of saying that, not one can of beer to that level, but they are saying that. That's one of the problems with the regulations.
I would say this: they're basically saying a case versus a keg.
Right.
That's what we're looking at here.
Right.
It's a case versus a keg situation. Gotcha. Yeah. So
well, if that's the case, that's fine. That's just becoming reasonable on it. As long as it stays reasonable.
Listen, if anything were ever unreasonable, I would be the first one up in arms about it, which is why we added hemp onto the banking bill, because that was just completely unreasonable.
That is completely unreasonable. It really is. Now, there is a concern. I wanted to talk about the banking bill again for a quick second, because there is a concern. There was talk about creating a credit union, years ago with the banking issues. That's been going on for a while.
Yeah, the banks killed that.
And somebody did bring up a point that I always thought was really interesting. And the point was, if we create a credit union for the cannabis industry, then at any given point, if the federal government got a bug up its ass about cannabis, they can shut down all of the money at once. And it makes it very easy for them to kind of cripple the industry.
Yep.
So that is an interesting, that's a big concern, actually. It's still a concern. We feel like the cat's out of the bag.
With the SARS reporting, they can come after your money anyways. With the,
But it's a lot easier when it's all in one place.
It's a lot easier and it's all in one place. And so listen, I think it's one of those things where these industries are going to hedge their bets. These businesses are going to hedge their bets, and they're going to go, what's more dangerous to me? Losing my life or losing my money?
Of course.
And I think some of them are going to probably hedge the bet like, well, if they're coming after me, they're coming after me. And so I need a safe place to keep my money. This is a public safety issue at the end of the day. I mean, we're talking about people's livelihoods and their lives, like literal, you know?
Well, and there are other companies out there that are trying to come up with solutions, and we reported on them a couple issues ago on kindbanking.com. And I'm interested in seeing what happens with that company because that's funded I know where it's being funded from, and it seems like it's a pretty reliable place. And they're looking at providing exactly that, banking solutions, but more as a private banking for people in the industry. So it'll be interesting to see now. Maybe there'll become competition. You have this credit union, then you have other entities like Kind Banking or other ones coming out that might be coming out soon. And then I do wonder about the viability of these because all of a sudden when the other banks go, okay, they're making money off of this, we're just going to allow it now. Then all of a sudden these solutions might go away.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just interesting. Some other things in the news, though. Another state is working towards passing Minnesota. I mean,
Big Union's been helping out
can
a
you
lot on
give
that
the
one.
people of Minnesota cannabis? I mean, geez, it gets so cold there.
I know. The moms were all crying yesterday. Good for them.
Were the moms crying?
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about
The Minnesota moms.
Oh, the Minnesota moms. Yeah.
They're happy. They're
so
happy.
well, the Senate approved the bill.
Their babies are, sick and dying, and they now have like an option, and it's amazing.
But they didn't allow PTSD.
They took out pain and PTSD. I think.
How are you taking out pain?
I think if I understand correctly, we can still add it in because I think Minnesota is sort of is similar to the federal government, the U.S. Congress,
right.
which you have two complementary bills go at the same time.
Yes, they
through
do.
The chambers, yeah. So
the House was more narrow, and it was only about research and development.
Yeah, and so I think the Senate.
Yeah.
And I think the Senate we're going to get it.
Well, and it passed. What did it pass? 48 to 18, and it was bipartisan, even though it was a Democratic-dominated Senate there in Minnesota.
Yeah. Man, you pay attention.
I do. And
you should write a magazine or something.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Now, the patients can also possess 2.5 ounces, so they actually bumped it up a little bit, which is always kind of funny to me. It's like 2.5 ounces. It's like it's always this arbitrary number. I mean, 2 ounces always seem like it's probably enough for most people, but fine, 2.5 ounces, great. But here's an interesting part of the bill. They do not allow smoking. They actually write in the bill that it needs to be vaporized or ingested in some kind of form, like an oil or a pill or something in that realm. Various. So it doesn't limit edibles yet. I mean, they're not being restrictive on edibles, but they do kind of limit it as pills or oils. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't say not to do brownies.
No.
But then vaporized, so because you can have the flower, but you can't smoke it. I think this is interesting because it's one of those things. Every state has a little quirky thing in the bill that you're like, you're really not accomplishing anything with that.
They're not gonna. That's so unenforceable.
Isn't it though?
It's
it
so
is.
Unenforceable.
It really is.
And I think it's so funny.
It's so cold in Minnesota. How are you gonna know if they're smoking or just breathing?
I know. I think it's always so funny when I see these kinds of just being in the mix in the middle of all this history making legislation going on, and to see how much of it is planned because they want to screw the industry over, and how much of it is just operating out of ignorance and presupposition. They just think that if you're sick, you shouldn't be smoking, kind of a thing, and so I think it's just kind of this prejudice.
Maybe there's just a really secret vape lobby out there that we don't know about.
The vape lobby.
I mean, poor glass blowers in Minnesota are like, son of a bitch, really? You're gonna legalize it and say I can't use my bowl?
They're not. It's so unenforceable.
It totally is. It
so
totally is.
Unenforceable. It could be big vape. Is there a big vape lobby?
Is there a big vape lobby?
I don't know.
But it's good news. Still some funny things about this bill. They're only allowing 55 dispensaries in Minnesota. I don't understand.
And a single source grow operation, I believe.
Right, which is scary in and of itself too.
Well,
because
if you get the right grower out there, I mean, you get some nice, tasty weed, organic or something like that. Some really good stuff, high quality.
Yeah, but it's a single source. So you're talking about one massive warehouse. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, probably, or outdoor grow or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, you're not going to get much out of an outdoor grow. You only get one season out there. See that's problematic. What if something happens to the grow? I mean,
It is, and
it also means that, like, are they going to like really focus on keeping it weaker product? You know, it's just these are things that bother me when you start having that much control.
And I think part of it, well, I know, and I think honestly, I just think part of it is just like they're so scared, and so I mean, at this point,
they are.
I know, and I know this is the argument people always use, and they talk about CBD only legislation, which I vehemently oppose.
I do too. I do too. It drives me crazy when I hear about it.
I don't like it, but I do understand the idea of baby steps. And again, you know, once more people come online, obviously we're talking like in 10 years, right?
But the problem is these guys, it's a consistency throughout all of the states for the most part, including Colorado. Although the free market approach here is the one that I'm like, why isn't everybody doing it? You know, and in a way, I'm kind of glad because it makes more people want to come to us. But it's this idea that like these legislators are trying to pass these rules on a substance they have no understanding about, and I don't really feel like they're taking enough time to learn from the people that do have an understanding of cannabis and why you need to allow as many strains as possible and why you need to provide all these options. You know, I don't think it's it just tells me they're not listening to the people that they need to listen to.
I think, like, look, if you get a good enough grower in there, they're going to be able to grow a lot of strains, and I'm not worried about that. You know, some grows do like 40 different strains.
Yeah, but it's government run.
It wouldn't be government run.
Okay, but it's a contractor that has basically a monopoly on Minnesota.
Yeah, well, yeah.
There's a problem with monopolies.
There's a problem, but look at it this way. Look. Once in 10 years, it's a limited monopoly because it's not going to last forever.
I don't know. It's kind of like selling a private road for 50 years, you know.
Oh, boo.
I know.
Boo, Goldman Sachs, boo.
I know, really boo. But it is. I mean, I do have a problem when you have, like, you know, I have no problem with government helping out on certain things. I wouldn't say, I mean, you know, I think nationalize healthcare and social, you know, that makes sense to me. But like when it comes to like commerce and providing like a product and goods and services, that is scary to me because I don't trust the government to do that in the best manner possible, like the free market.
Yeah, and you're right. Government sucks. Government knows nothing about weed.
They know nothing about weed.
But it's so funny. I think that at the end of the day, every state that makes a step towards legalization, whether it's medical or, you know, adult use, is progress.
True. No.
And so
it's progress. You're right. It is progress. Go Minnesota.
I mean, this is better than what the governor wanted. The governor wanted a study on CBD only. That's what he wanted.
Again, and these guys aren't paying attention. That's my point, is all these CBD only laws are absolutely insane to me.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, first of all, you guys understand, we're not even close to being able to provide CBD only, you know, that much CBDs in Colorado, and we've been doing it for a little while here. It's like you think that a state's just going to be able to create these strains, like, you know, ad nauseum, just keep growing and growing. It takes time to develop these. Yeah. So they're just creating shortages before they've even started. And to not understand that there's a medicinal value, you know, whether you call it the entourage effect or synergy between all the cannabinoids that you're going to find in cannabis, it's like it's only looking at like one petal on the flower.
Yeah, I know, and I agree. That's why I vehemently oppose them, especially for medicinal cannabis. That it is an entourage effect. I mean, the studies are there. It's out of Israel. They've been doing amazing work. But yeah, so we're good.
Yeah, we got to take a quick word for our sponsor.
I know, so I got to do this now?
Yeah, it's the one in blue there.
Interesting.
Just at the top in blue.
All right, let me think.
Silence. Radio silence here. Bad start.
What? I have to like get into like my...
Oh, we have to get into character? Do you need to do some breathing exercises? You got to stretch?
I'm all about the, method actor.
Okay. All right.
New from Incredibles, gummies. Our new gummies come to 2 to a pack. Each pack contains 100 milligrams of the finest medicine around. What's more, each 50 milligrams infused gummy disc is fortified with 100 milligrams of vitamin C. Stop laughing at me. Vitamin C for an extra helpful kick. Available in black cherry, green apple, orange, strawberry, blue, raspberry. I'm turning into Australian all of a sudden.
You were turning Australian a while ago.
Gummies are new from Incredibles. Same great flavors, brand new shape, and fortified with vitamin C.
Gummies. She just turned Southern Belle for a second.
Ask. Now I fucked it up.
You know now you fucked it up.
Ask for them by name at your favorite Colorado dispensary.
Wow.
That was horrid.
That was horrid, actually.
That
But
was
that
terrible.
was much funnier than my bad accent.
I'm funny.
But
I
look,
told you I'm funnier than
We're
you.
having fun with our little promos, but I do want to say that I love Incredibles. I do. And those
I
guys-
love
those guys
Incredibles
rock.
too.
And I was really disappointed because I went to a dispensary the other day and they were sold out on the medical side. And I'm such a cheapo. I had to go ahead but I went ahead and did the recreational just to get my monkey bar because they're awesome. The monkey bar is good, actually. It is a little banana, coconut, walnut.
I like
yum.
peanut butter Buddha.
Those make really good s'mores. Remember we did the peanut butter Buddha bars? Oh, no, they were the Boulder bars.
Used
That's
the Boulder
right.
bars,
We
yeah.
did Boulder bars for s'mores at Bongathon. And by the way, we're going to have Bongathon on next week again.
Bongathon.
Those guys are awesome. A lot of fun.
Yeah, you always have to sing it. People don't understand that. That's like
No, you have to sing it.
no, everyone does. They always like say bongathon whenever you bring up bongathon. You have to. This was
With that little vibrato at the end. Yeah.
listen. I can't help the fact that I am just a natural, vocalist.
Right. Right. Natural.
And natural.
So what else is new in the
Well, no,
news
are we
world?
almost done?
We are almost done, actually. So I want to wrap
All
up.
right. Well, listen, we got the hemp bill through. That was freaking amazing. Senate Bill 184. So we've gotten rid of the indoor-outdoor requirements for research and development. We are creating a seed certification program, and we are tapped into the Prop AA money. So
Excellent.
after next year, we can start getting funds up to $10 million for research and development.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. That's exciting.
I do very good work.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
So you take, is that what your focus was the whole time?
That and then, other marijuana bills
Gotcha.
are coming up. And
Do you find it easy to be a hemp lobbyist as opposed to a marijuana lobbyist?
hemp is a breeze.
It is, isn't it?
It's a breeze.
It's not hard.
Wait, it's actually very hard. No one else can do it. Just me.
Yeah, I was like,
I'm
danger,
the
danger.
only one who's good at
No,
doing
but
it.
I mean, compared to the other lobbying you do, because it's like it seems like it's an issue that everyone's starting to come on board with at the state level, where they're like, yeah, this is just common sense. Let's just do this. So I mean, I it's like so nice to hear that. You know what I mean? Because hemp is gonna take more time.
Unanimous. I think our hemp bill went in unanimously through both chambers. So
Wow, so we have nothing to complain about when it comes to hemp right now.
nothing,
Except for it's still not happening as big and fast as we would love it to happen, but it's happening.
we're
and it's
getting
going
there. Baby step. We'll get there.
Well, of course. But we always just want it to just be there. But I think that's awesome. I'm very excited about that. Let's see. We're working towards putting together the announcement for the Hemp Connoisseur Championship. A little bit of setbacks in finding our space now that that Denver hates pot.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so we're working on it, but we're hoping to actually do a 2-day festival.
Castleman's was totally kicked you guys out.
They
huh?
can't. Well, they didn't kick us out. Castleman's. Look, here's what happened, and so I don't want anybody to blame Castleman's for this.
I know.
Is that all the bars that have been friendly to cannabis smoking, or I mean, not necessarily embraced it as much as kind of looked the other way.
Friendly to cannabis culture.
Thank you. Friendly to cannabis culture have received letters basically telling them that if they are caught allowing anybody, their staff or them, are caught either doing cannabis, of course, but most importantly, allowing their customers to do cannabis on their do cannabis on their
I have one marijuana piece.
yeah. On their premises, whether it's in their outdoor patio or inside, they could lose their liquor license or get fines on their liquor license. And here's the other thing. The city of Denver was not joking because they sent Vice in on multiple occasions to a lot of these bars to see if they were allowing it and are either writing citations up or recognizing the bars that are doing it. And Castleman said, look, we're not going to lose our liquor license. That's how we make money. And so they had to put signs everywhere saying smoking, and they show, the circle around the cannabis leaf with a cross through saying is not prohibited on the patio or anywhere on our premises. Please help us keep our liquor license.
Ganja crow laws. That's what we've got going on.
We got
right now.
ganja crow laws going on.
Laws.
So, I mean, you can't blame the bars for doing what they got to do to stay open. And they are doing what they have to do to stay open. There are some probably still looking the other way, and I bet they are getting citations. But it is what it is. They have to do this to stay, and it's not, I guarantee you most of these places would love to be able to continually embrace cannabis culture in Denver. But
this is so, it just makes me so mad.
it does. So, We're in the process of trying to find a space to do like a 2-day festival, and the difficulty for us is it's in the fall because we like to do that fall harvest that nobody else does, and that's usually some of the best harvest for the championship, and that means that we have to do it in November, which sucks. It does. I mean, we have to do it like we either have to do it like the weekend before Thanksgiving or the weekend after Thanksgiving.
When did you do it last year?
We did it on the weekend of Halloween, which is difficult because that's Halloween. That's actually an ideal time to do it.
Yeah.
But it's really difficult to do a cannabis festival on Halloween weekend because everybody's going out and partying it up for Halloween specifically.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a challenge, to get the good harvest cup time.
People with the vape pens then.
I'm not hearing about people being busted with the vape pens.
Because,
and they're not busting individual users so much as they're going after the places that are looking the other way on that.
If you were to be like, it's tobacco. Oh, that's okay. Cancer, you're good. Good.
Cancer's fine. Cancer's fine. No, you're not seeing them bust them for vape pens because then I think part of it is it's the same argument that you would have for tobacco vape pens. So it's just a look the other way, but they're like it's a Clean Air Act thing, and vapor doesn't really fall under the Clean Air Act.
It was always on their patio, and
oh yeah, but it was a lot of smoking. I mean, but look, people were trying to come into some of these places with their own dab rigs, and it was getting ridiculous in that sense.
Yeah, it's silly.
But
hi, puppy dog.
But really, if you're on a patio where you can smoke cigarettes, I don't see why you can't have some cannabis.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
ridiculous.
Insane.
All right, well, that was fun.
Was that fun?
Yeah.
You're already done. We have 4 more minutes.
I'm ready to go.
You're ready to go?
I'm ready to go.
Nothing more exciting to go? You were out of state the other
Austin,
day.
yeah.
What were you doing in Austin? Keeping it weird?
Hanging out.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you like Austin?
I loved it. Oh, wee-hee.
A lot of good music?
Minus the time, listen, I just like to go on the record and defend my innocence. I was totally kicked out of a bar unjustly. I think it was because I smelled like weed. Because we're totally smoking pot down there,
Of course.
Super illegally. Because, it's Texas.
It is Texas.
They'll
It's super
string you
illegal.
up there.
So, I'm sorry. The point, please.
The point being that, I was minding my own business and hanging out at a bar. And they were like, you need to leave, ma'am. I was like, what? So, fuck that place.
That's all they said? That was literally the story?
They had multiple complaints. I was like, about what? I haven't even done
What were your
anything.
multiple complaints?
I don't know. They wouldn't.
Were you already, drinking quite a bit?
I was
Could you have been quite loud and just a little bit obnoxious?
No, because it was a concert. It was a band was playing, and I was just
playing.
the standing around other people.
Mm-hmm. Were you smoking in the concert?
No.
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 So you just think you just smelled like weed, and people were complaining because you smelled like weed.
That's what I think. It's got to be what it was. Because
you think
I was
you just
not
had?
even,
Did you just have Colorado aura on you, and they just smelled the Colorado off of you?
Colorado racists is what they were being. They were being
the Colorado
racists.
Color racists.
They're cannabis racists. And I was just minding.
Canna racist? Is that it? Canna racist?
What? Anyways, so I was just minding my own business, being perfectly. I was not like.
Do you think there's a little alternative story to this, Chris? I think there's an alternative story.
Ask Joe Megacy. Joe Megacy was my date all week, and I was fine. I think they were just being.
Joe wasn't kicked out?
No.
You were kicked out.
And Joe was way drunker than I was.
Joe next to you?
Joe what?
Was he next to you when they kicked you out?
No, I had to go find. I was like, can I go find my friend? I was so sober.
Did you punch a girl?
No, I wanted to.
So there was a girl that you had a little altercation with? No, you didn't have any altercations. No, but you didn't even bump into somebody.
Why would you assume that? Why is that where your mind goes?
I'm just getting to the bottom of the
Why
story.
is my guilt being presumed on this?
Your guilt is not being presumed. Your innocence is just in question.
You're calling my honor into question. This is my honor and integrity. My word is my bond, and if I say something happened, it happened.
Okay,
it's true.
In your world.
In reality, David.
All right.
I was totally
kicked off for no reason.
No reason. It was insane. It was insanity. So that was my one
I wish we had time for callers we should have started with this and just seen how many people believe that statement.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, actually I do, because I would love to see how many people agree with me, and I guarantee you everybody.
Were you head shaking when you were in the bar?
No,
that's just happening right
now.
No, you're not kind of slipping into the bar mode that you were in that night. No.
I was David. What? I'm very mellow, relaxed. Linda. Listen. I was I was a good citizen. I was being, very, lukewarm tourist.
Lukewarm tourist.
I was
what does that mean?
I don't know.
You were just kind of like trying to be there.
Amenable. I was very amiable. I was very
Amiable?
nice. Yes, I was amiable, and I was nice.
Amicable.
Yes, that too, and yeah, and I no reason. I was targeted.
I'm
they
sorry.
could smell the Colorado on me, and I was targeted unfairly. It was unjust.
I'm sorry that you were dealing with some unjust prejudice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No one knows what that's like.
No one knows that except for Rosa Parks and like millions of other
Rosa
people.
Parks. God, that was like
that was nothing compared to my experience at the bar in Austin.
Yeah.
All right.
God,
well,
I had to go there, didn't you?
Yeah, I am so glad you went there. Actually,
you went there.
I did. So next week we have Bongathon on here.
Bongathon. See?
You're right. I go down though. You go up.
Right? You want to do it at the same time?
Right. Bongathon. It doesn't work. That's not really good harmony, was it?
You are a terrible harmonizer.
I never said I was a good one, and I never pretended to be. But I do a better English accent than you.
Whatever.
All right. Until next time.
Peace, love, and happiness, Governor.